Chloe and I had been married for 5 years, and in everyone's eyes, I was the perfect husband, even once named Husband of the Year by a gossip magazine. Everyone envied us, but no one knew the role I truly played in our marriage. For these 5 years, she remained as cool and distant as ever, and I, in turn, slowly lost the passionate love I once had when I pursued her. I knew that in her heart, I was never the one. I wasn't her first love, the one she could never get over. So, I asked for a divorce and left. But a week later, she cornered me at the door of my new apartment. "Ethan," she said, looking at me with red-rimmed eyes, "why are you leaving me?" This afternoon, just as I got home, Ms. Davis, her secretary, sent me a message. "Mr. Sterling, Ms. Hayes has a business dinner tonight and will be home around 10:30. I glanced at my phone and replied, "Okay, thank you." 10:30. By then she would have already eaten and probably had a few drinks. All I needed to do was draw her a bath and lay out a fresh set of clothes for her in the bathroom. By the time I finished, it was 10:15, so after a moment's thought, I left the lamp on in the living room and went to bed. In a sleepy haze, I vaguely heard the front door open. The sound of the shower was running, and just as I was drifting off, a familiar fragrance filled the air beside me. Her warm body pressed against my cool back, and as I groggily turned my head, her lips found mine with precision. She must have been a little drunk. "Why are you in bed so early?" she murmured, nuzzling against my ear. She was being playful, just tired, but she held on to me tightly. I gave in. She was always like this when she was drunk, and if I didn't indulge her, she would just keep whimpering. Perhaps this was the only time she would ever be affectionate with me, the only moment I truly felt like her husband. I couldn't bring myself to refuse her. Afterward, deep in the night, she fell into a sound sleep in my arms, but I was wide awake. I got up, poured myself a glass of red wine, and sat alone in the living room, staring blankly at our wedding portrait on the wall. When, I wondered, would be the right time to ask for a divorce. Chloe and I met in college. Back then, she was the campus queen, radiant and seemingly flawless with her prestigious family background, perfect grades, and stunning looks. It was only natural for me to fall for a girl like her. I was pretty shameless back then, but even after chasing her for 2 semesters and doing all sorts of foolish things, I still couldn't win her over. I still remember one snowy day. I baked her favorite dessert and waited for her outside the women's dorm, only to be met with her cold words. "Ethan, please stop coming to see me. I'm in love with someone." I refused to give up at first, thinking it was just an excuse to turn me down. That is, until I happened to see her with the man she loved, Liam Carter. I watched as she carefully straightened his collar, playfully tousled his hair, and looked at him with a smile full of pure adoration. And then I saw her rise gently onto her toes to give him a soft kiss. It was only then that I realized Chloe was capable of loving someone so deeply. It just wasn't me. The news of her and Liam spread across campus like wildfire. The romance between the campus queen and the scholarship kid made Liam the subject of endless gossip and controversy. Everyone assumed he was just a social climber trying to marry into the Hayes family fortune. But Chloe always defended him, even using her family's influence to shut down the campus gossip forums for his sake. Unfortunately, even a love that passionate couldn't have a perfect ending. Chloe never told me why she and Liam broke up, but the rumor was that she wanted him to marry her right after graduation and join the Hayes family, but Liam refused. He said he didn't want to be a man who lived off his wife's family. He wanted to build his own future. Many people saw them arguing on campus, and so it went, fighting and making up, until the day Liam decided to return to his hometown to become a rural schoolteacher. They finally broke up for good. 6 months later, the Hayes and Sterling families started a joint business venture, and Chloe and I crossed paths once more. The project brought us back into each other's lives, and we started getting to know each other again. Looking back, I guess you could say I took advantage of the situation. I treated her just as well as I had years before. I shared business insights I'd learned at the Sterling Group, reminded her to drink less at her endless dinners, and always made sure she got home safely afterward. Then, 3 months later, on another snowy night, she found me shivering outside her office building and walked up to me. "Ethan," she asked, "do you really like me that much?" I just stared at her blankly and nodded. It was true. I had always liked her. She gave a small smile. "In that case, do you want to marry me?" When we first got married, I was filled with passion for our future together. In fact, for most of the past 5 years, I had been. Because I loved her. I was naive enough to believe that she had asked me to marry her because she liked me too. That's why even when she rarely answered my iMessages, even when I had to learn her schedule from her secretary at the Hayes Corporation, even when our intimacy seemed confined to the bedroom and nothing more, my unwavering love for her never faded. She was an only child, destined to inherit her family's empire, while I had an older brother, which made my life considerably less pressured. Old Mr. Hayes was a stern man, and the board of directors at the corporation gave her a hard time for being so young, so I knew how difficult her position was. So after much thought, I gave up my management position at the Sterling Group and came to her company to help her run its most troubled subsidiary. I knew how hard it was for a woman to secure her footing in a company that large, so I did my best to handle everything else so she wouldn't have to worry. Even when I worked myself sick, I wouldn't tell her. I'd just go to the hospital by myself. That is, until the day I stumbled upon a box containing documents that showed she had been making anonymous donations to a rural elementary school for years. The principal of that school, to thank his anonymous benefactor, wrote a heartfelt letter of thanks each year, which was then forwarded by the donation agency. And all those letters were stacked neatly in the box, perfectly preserved without a single crease. The principal of that school was Liam Carter. The next morning, as I was asking our housekeeper to prepare breakfast, Chloe suddenly came up behind me and wrapped her arms around me. I was so surprised I jumped, turning to look at her. "Are you eating breakfast at home today?" She nodded. "Yes." The housekeeper froze, looking at me with a bewildered expression. I glanced awkwardly at the ingredients in her hands. I used to always have her prepare 2 servings of breakfast, whether Chloe was eating at home or not. She always left for work before I did, so I cherished every rare moment we could share a meal. But lately, I had stopped asking for 2 servings. It just felt like a waste of food. "Here, you can have this one," I said, plating the omelet the housekeeper had just finished. I handed it to her. She stared at the plate, looking a little taken aback. "You should eat it while it's hot. I'm not going to the office today. I'm heading straight to a supplier, so I'll just grab a bite on the way." I set a glass of milk down for her and turned to go. "Ethan," she called out suddenly, grabbing my arm. She seemed to want to say something, but hesitated. I turned back, looking at her quizzically. "What is it?" She stepped closer, wrapped her arms around my waist, and looked up at me. "You seem a little down lately," she asked. "Is work at the subsidiary getting to be too much?" Her eyes searched mine. "Tired?" I was tired, that was true. Mentally exhausted from constantly thinking about the divorce. "I'm free tonight," she said. "Ms. Davis told me a new Michelin restaurant opened up near the office. It's Cantonese, your favorite. Do you want to go together?" she asked. I paused, surprised. "You're free tonight?" I confirmed. She nodded. "For how long?" She smiled. "For the whole evening." "The whole evening?" "Really? Of course. That's great. I'll come by the office to pick you up tonight," I said, a wave of relief washing over me as I hugged her. My mood instantly lifted. She had time. That meant tonight, we could finally have a proper talk about the divorce. But that evening, Chloe never showed up. She stood me up. At 5 o'clock, just as I was leaving the supplier's office, I got an iMessage from Ms. Davis. Something had come up, and Chloe wouldn't be able to make it to dinner. This had happened countless times over the past 5 years, so I was used to it. I just changed my clothes and started making dinner for one. After dinner, I reviewed some quarterly reports from the subsidiary and then picked up my phone to scroll through some videos to unwind. And that's when I saw Chloe in a trending local video. She wasn't alone. Liam was with her. The two of them were sitting across from each other in the first-floor cafe of the Hayes Corporation building. The person who posted it must have been an employee, captioning the video excitedly. "Check out the perks at my job. I get to see our gorgeous CEO having coffee with the famous educator, Principal Carter, after work. He's even more handsome in person than on TV. I'm dying to ask for an autograph." The video had been posted 5 minutes ago. The comment section was flooded with praise. "The beautiful CEO and the handsome teacher. What a good-looking pair. I'm so jealous of you. Hey, is your company hiring? I'd love to be there. I'd love to be there." I watched in silence for a long time before turning off my phone. So that was it. Chloe had stood me up for Liam. For some reason, even though I was her husband, it felt completely normal that she would cancel on me for him. What did 5 years of marriage matter? In her heart, there was probably no comparison between Liam and me. At 9:30, Chloe finally came home. "What did you have for dinner?" she asked as she walked over and sat down next to me, a rare show of concern. It was a rare question. I didn't answer, just paused for a moment before asking quietly, "Was the thing you had tonight because Liam was here?" She froze, looking surprised and a little annoyed. "Who told you that?" I shook my head. "No one. I saw it in a video online." After a moment, she let out a soft sigh. "Ethan, I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd get the wrong idea. Don't worry, there's nothing going on between us. I've been anonymously donating to his school, and somehow the news got out, so he came with a television crew to thank me. He was on a tight schedule, so I agreed to a few interviews." She sat down beside me. "We met in the company cafe, and plenty of employees were around. Ethan, she said, holding my arm, we've been married for 5 years. We should have at least that much trust in each other, right? Right. I should be free tomorrow. We can go to that Cantonese place then. Chloe, I interrupted her. I had to stop her. I don't actually like Cantonese food. I only said I did because you like it, and I wanted to have more meals with you. She stared at me, stunned. We've been married for 5 years. Do you have any idea what my favorite food is? She said nothing. Of course she didn't. She had never cared enough to find out. The emotions I'd been suppressing for hours were about to boil over. I fought back the urge to scream at her, but the cutting words still came out. So you remember that Liam likes black coffee and croissants, but you have no idea what your own husband likes to eat. Ethan, she said, her brow furrowing. If you're unhappy with me, we can talk about it. But don't bring Liam into this. Of course, I had only said his name, and she was already defending him. I did have something I wanted to talk to you about tonight, I said, taking a deep breath and turning to face her. I looked her straight in the eye. Chloe, let's get a divorce. The silence in the room stretched for a full minute. Ethan, Chloe said, her eyes wide with disbelief. Do you have any idea what you're saying? I do. Divorce isn't something you can just throw around. I know. The room fell silent again. After a moment, Chloe shot to her feet. Maybe my tone was off just now, but you want to divorce me just because I met with Liam for a few minutes? I stayed silent, feeling like she was completely missing the point. If I were going to have an affair, I wouldn't be so obvious about it. You know how I operate. We've been married for 5 years, she continued. She went on, and she was right. I did know her. She was a perfectionist, always in control. If she wanted something, she would plan it meticulously and execute it flawlessly to guarantee success. But did she know me? Had she ever loved me? Seeing that video tonight brought back all the insecurity I'd felt in college when I saw her with Liam. The truth was plain and simple. Whenever Liam was around, it was like I became invisible to her. But it was ridiculous for a grown man to be hung up on whether he was loved or not. I just feel that after all these years, we're not a good match. You deserve to be with someone better. How are we not a good match? She asked, reaching for my hand. Ethan, you've been a wonderful husband for the past 5 years. But I don't want to do it anymore, I said, pulling my hand away. I avoided her touch. Chloe's hand hovered in the air between us. I've already had the divorce papers drawn up. Ethan, she cut me off, her voice sharp with frustration. I already explained about Liam. I promised you there's nothing else between us. What more do you want? Her face darkened. If you're going to keep fixating on tonight, you're just being irrational. You're a grown man. Stop being so dramatic. Her words stopped me from saying anything more. Okay, I said. It was clear we weren't going to resolve this tonight. Perhaps sensing she'd been too harsh, her tone softened after a moment. I've been so tired lately. Please, don't fight with me. With that, she got up and went to take a shower. As I watched her walk away, I said softly to her back, Chloe, I had a fiery Sichuan dish for dinner. She stopped in her tracks for a second. Did you know? That's my favorite food. Are you kidding me? Divorce. What are you talking about? Divorce? The next day, my brother Henry stared at the divorce papers in my hand, his eyes as wide as saucers. After all, our marriage had significantly strengthened the business ties between the Hayes and Sterling families. I figured if I was going through with this, I should give him a heads up. Look, if this means you're coming back to help me at the Sterling Group, I'm all for it. But why the sudden divorce? I know she was sort of pressured into the marriage at the beginning, but I thought you two were happy together, my brother said, swinging his golf club. He finished his swing. What did you just say? Pressured? What do you mean, pressured? He went quiet. Henry. Well, Henry said, pinching the bridge of his nose as if regretting his big mouth. 5 years ago, the Hayes family needed a massive bailout, right? And I knew how crazy you were about her, always running after her. So when Chloe came to me on behalf of her family's company, I might have dropped a little hint. I stared at my brother, completely stunned. What kind of hint? Henry looked away, uncomfortable. I just told her that if our families were to be joined by marriage, then helping with the capital wouldn't be a problem at all. I stood frozen to the spot, the blood turning to ice in my veins. Ethan, my brother asked, looking concerned. He sounded worried. What else? I asked, pinching the bridge of my nose. What else don't I know? Henry hesitated. Henry, I'm already divorcing her. What is there to hide now? It's not a huge deal, but on your wedding day, Chloe's ex-boyfriend showed up. I stared at him, speechless. He said he wanted to see Chloe, but I was worried he'd cause a scene. So I told him you two were very happy together and that she wouldn't want to see him. I sent him away. He scratched his head. Some of the Hayes family were there too, so I'm not sure if Chloe ever found out about it. So that's how it was. That's how it all happened. I thought she had agreed to marry me because I had finally won her over, because she had started to like me, even just a little. But the entire marriage was just a sacrifice she made, a burden she shouldered for her company and her family. Now her words on that snowy night 5 years ago finally made sense. Ethan, do you really like me that much? Enough to force me into marrying you like this? So she married me, but she drew an uncrossable line between us. She never once let me cross it. When we were first married, I used to send her messages all the time, wanting to take her out, wanting to share every little interesting moment of my life with her. But unless it was about work, she rarely replied. If she needed anything, she had her secretary contact me. Gradually, I stopped trying. I talked less, stopped bothering her, and Ms. Davis became my primary point of contact. We had a normal physical relationship, and she would whisper softly in my ear, calling my name, Ethan, over and over. I always thought that was proof that she loved me. But the few times I brought up having children, she always said she was too busy, that the time wasn't right. Now I realize she probably never intended to have children with me at all. After all, I was just her husband in name, nothing more. Last night, she had asked me what more I wanted after she promised she would have no further contact with Liam. And it was true. On our wedding day, the two of them had a chance to get back together. Because of me, they missed that chance, perhaps forever. What more could a sinner like me possibly ask for? But this was never what I wanted when I fell in love with her. When she was with Liam, I was envious, but I never once thought of getting in their way, let alone breaking them up. I loved her, and I wanted her to be happy. But she had punished me for it, for 5 long years. I wandered aimlessly through the streets, and, before I knew it, found myself standing in front of the Hayes Corporation building. The divorce papers were in my briefcase. After a moment's thought, I sent an iMessage to Ms. Davis, letting her know I was at the office to see Chloe. I wanted this divorce. I didn't want to drag it out any longer. As I walked into the lobby, I saw Liam. He was smiling and talking to the receptionist, but he turned at the sound of my footsteps and saw me. He looked thinner than he had in the video, and more tan than I remembered from college. He was dressed simply in a casual shirt and jeans, yet he radiated an air of confidence, maturity, and composure. "Long time no see," he said, nodding at me. He greeted me first. We went to the cafe on the first floor together. I can't believe they have the same croissants and black coffee as the old campus cafe. It really brings back memories, he said with that same cool, handsome smile. College was a great time, wasn't it? He told me about his life over the past few years. He was truly remarkable. After returning to his hometown, he had helped so many children get an education. Now, his school was thriving, and he had become a well-known figure in education. "That's really incredible," I said, and I meant it. I was genuinely impressed. He smiled. "People only see the positive side of it. The truth is, there were times back then when I almost gave up." He took a sip of his coffee. "Actually, I came to see Chloe on your wedding day." I didn't say anything. Back then, I took her love for granted. I was reckless and selfish when I broke up with her, and I hurt her deeply. But when I actually started teaching in that small town, I realized how vast the gap between ideals and reality is. Everything was so much harder than I had imagined. There were so many times I wanted to quit. At my lowest point, I was ready to give it all up and come back for her. But then I heard you two were getting married. "I'm sorry," I said. I told him. He looked at me, surprised. "I didn't know you were there that day." He looked down at his cup and said nothing. "I'm divorcing Chloe," I told him. I looked him in the eye. Liam's eyes shot wide open. "You've got to be kidding," he said, then laughed. "I see you two in the news all the time. Everyone says you're the perfect couple." "It's true. Can I ask why?" he said quietly after a moment. "Why the divorce?" I just shook my head. What other reason could there be? I was just tired. I just wished, for once, that I could be the one who was loved so much that I could afford to be reckless. Just then, a familiar voice called out from the entrance of the cafe, "Ethan." Liam and I both turned our heads. It was Chloe. She walked over quickly, pausing for a fraction of a second when she saw Liam. Then her eyes narrowed as she looked at me. "What are you doing here?" From the look on her face, I knew exactly what she was thinking. She thought I had come here specifically to cause trouble for Liam. "Chloe," Liam said, standing up. "I'm the one who's imposing. I just wanted to follow up on those educational charity projects we discussed. I had some free time today, so I thought I'd stop by." "Of course. I'll have my secretary show you up to my office," Chloe said, then immediately called for Ms. Davis, who was standing by the door, to escort Liam away. She had him taken away. I expected her to go with them, but she remained standing there, watching me. I didn't understand. Did she send Liam away just so she could confront me in front of everyone? I was still her husband, for God's sake. Her favoritism was so blatant, so inappropriate for a public place. I had no choice but to try and explain, pinching the bridge of my nose. Chloe, it's not what you think. Ethan, are you feeling all right? I was taken aback. Before I could even process her question, she stepped forward and took my hand. Your face is so pale, and your hands are ice cold. Employees passing by started to stare, their whispers buzzing in the air around us. And then it hit me. I understood her strange behavior. Chloe and I rarely appeared together like this at the office. She was probably afraid I'd make a scene, so she sent Liam away first and was now putting on a show of affection for the employees to prevent any damaging rumors about him from spreading. I didn't care. We were getting a divorce anyway. I could play along for her and Liam's sake. Besides, if I didn't make things difficult, the divorce proceedings would probably go more smoothly. With that in mind, I looked up and forced a smile. I'm fine. You and Principal Carter have things to discuss, so I'll get going. I pulled my hand free, grabbed my briefcase, and turned to leave. But she stepped in front of me. Where are you going? I was speechless. She pulled me closer and pressed the back of her hand to my forehead. Ethan, you're burning up. I'm taking you to the hospital. I felt ridiculous as Chloe dragged me to her car without giving me a choice. I can drive, I said. I offered. Whenever we were together, I was always the one who drove so she could rest. You're sick. I'm driving, she insisted. She wouldn't have it any other way. I thought it was just an excuse to get me away from the office, but she actually drove me straight to the hospital. It's nothing serious. His temperature is normal, the doctor told Chloe. But this hypoglycemia, how long has your husband had it? The doctor asked her. Chloe froze. A few years now, I answered for her. I answered myself. You need to pay more attention to this, the doctor said to her while writing his notes. You should always keep some candy on hand for him. It can be serious, leading to heart palpitations, fatigue, and in severe cases, even a coma. Chloe nodded. Okay, it's fine, doctor, I said, feeling like this was all a bit much. I always carry candy and crackers with me. After we were done, I wanted to leave, but Chloe kept the doctor, asking a long list of questions about what to do. It was like she'd suddenly developed a keen interest in hypoglycemia. On the way to the car, Chloe held onto my arm tightly and didn't let go. The trip to the hospital had actually made me a little dizzy, so once I was in the car, I found a piece of candy in my briefcase, unwrapped it, and popped it in my mouth. The air in the car was heavy with silence. I just closed my eyes. After a while, the car came to a stop. Are we here? I asked groggily. I was half asleep. Red light. Oh. After a long silence, she asked quietly, why did you never tell me? I looked at her, confused about what she was referring to. This can't be the first time you felt sick, she said, pulling the car over to the side of the road. Why didn't you ever tell me before? I did tell you, I said, my eyes still closed. I kept them shut. What? She asked, her voice small. She sounded confused. Right after we got married. There was a week you were coming home late every night. That Friday, my blood sugar dropped while I was driving home from the office, and I got so dizzy I had to pull over. I sent you an iMessage asking if you could bring me some candy. I let out a small laugh. You never replied. I'm sure you've forgotten by now. I sent you so many messages back then, it's only natural. Then there was that other time, you must remember this one. We were doing that magazine interview, and the reporter accidentally knocked my briefcase off the couch, and a bunch of candy spilled out. It made the reporter think we had a secret child we weren't telling the public about. The questions got really invasive after that, and you were furious. Afterward, you told me specifically not to carry so much useless junk in my bag. So why didn't I tell her? Because she never gave me the chance. And I was always afraid that this little weakness of mine would become another reason for her to resent me. She didn't like candy, so I hid it in the inner compartment of my bag where she wouldn't see it. She wanted to be the head of the Hayes Corporation, so I did everything in my power to make that happen. Ethan, she whispered, her hand suddenly gripping mine. I actually found a Sichuan restaurant I wanted to take you to tonight, she said, her hand trembling slightly. But since you're not feeling well, maybe we should get something lighter instead, okay? I shook my head. I'll just have some soup at home. You don't need to stay with me. You should get back to the office. Ethan, I have time tonight, she insisted. She was firm. I felt compelled to remind her. But Liam is still waiting for you at the office. The vice president can handle that. I looked at her, confused. So you're really free tonight? She nodded. Yes, I am. In that case, I said after a moment. Since you're free, can we just go straight home? She nodded, a flicker of joy in her eyes. Okay, let's go home. My mood brightened instantly. Then when we get home, we can have a proper discussion about the divorce. Chloe was silent for the rest of the drive. She was a sharp woman. I was sure that by now, she understood I was serious about the divorce. When we got home, I calmly took out the divorce papers. I spent a month on this, and I think I've covered all the bases. Our divorce won't negatively impact the Sterling or Hayes families, and I'll be stepping down from my position at the subsidiary. If there's anything you want to add, we can discuss it." She stared at the papers in silence. I sat across from her. "I know you're busy, so I wanted to have everything prepared to make this as easy as possible. This way, we can get it done quickly and not waste any more of each other's time." "I don't agree," she said suddenly, pushing the papers back towards me and turning her head away. She wouldn't look at me. I was stunned. "Which clause don't you agree with?" I asked, flipping through the pages. "Is it the equity clause? I've already made the biggest concession I can on that. Any less, and my brother might." I was worried about what Henry would say. She suddenly reached out and pressed her hand down on the papers. "Ethan, I do not agree to this divorce," she said, looking me straight in the eye, each word deliberate. She was completely serious. Her expression was dead serious. "Why?" I asked, and then it dawned on me. "Oh, I get it. You think I've done a decent job running the subsidiary for the past 5 years, and you're worried your next husband won't be able to handle it and will face criticism. You don't have to worry about that. As long as he's willing to learn, he'll be fine." I thought for a moment, then went to the bookshelf and pulled out 5 notebooks. These have everything he'll need. Notes on internal company politics, how to handle the media, supplier contacts, a full breakdown of the subsidiary's personnel. I can hand all of this over to your new husband. And if he ever needs help, he can call me anytime. "Ethan," she cried out, her voice rising, her eyes turning red. She sounded desperate. I looked at her, completely bewildered. "What do you think our marriage is? What do you think I am? A job assignment? Was that all I was to you? Just a job?" I didn't answer, just turned to look out the window. How could she think it was just a job? It was because I cherished our marriage so much that I had worked so hard to help her succeed. But there was no point in saying that now. "Ethan," she said, taking my hand from the table, "you have to understand, we're not business partners. We're husband and wife. We share a life. But besides sharing a bed, we're nothing like a real married couple." She faltered. I can count the number of times we have dinner together in a month on one hand. I send more iMessages to Ms. Davis than I do to you. I don't know what other marriages are like, but I know I don't want this one anymore," I said, gently pulling my hand away. I freed my hand from her grasp. "Chloe, I've thought about this a lot. You haven't done anything wrong in this marriage. I was the one who pursued you. I was the one who wanted to get married. You've been faithful for 5 years. I'm the one who had unrealistic expectations for this marriage. We could go on like this, I suppose, but I think life is too short. We should be with people we love and who love us back. After all, you'd be happier with someone you truly love, wouldn't you?" She just stared at me blankly. "Someone I love?" she asked, her voice hollow. "Who do you think I love?" I shook my head. "I don't know. But whether it was Liam or someone else, I knew it wasn't me." The next morning, I moved out and went back to the condo I'd owned before we were married. The previous night, after sitting in silence for a few minutes, Chloe had taken a call and left. She hadn't come back all night. She had taken the divorce papers with her, which I took as a sign that she agreed. It wasn't like she had anything to lose. The wedding ring on my left hand was the only gift Chloe had ever given me in 5 years. Before I left, I took it off and placed it on the nightstand. I had just finished unpacking when my brother called. "What is going on? Why did Chloe call me first thing in the morning asking what kind of candy you like?" Henry's voice was full of exasperation. "What's the deal? Are you two playing house or something? Are you getting this divorce or not? Are you playing games? Are you going through with this or not?" I was taken aback. "I am." He was silent. "Henry," I said after a moment, "don't we own a small media company that's underperforming?" He grunted in agreement. "Hasn't turned a profit in years. I was about to shut it down and cut our losses." "Well then," I said, holding the phone to my ear as I gazed out at the wide open sky from my 26th floor window. "Let me have it, will you?" That evening, for the first time in a long time, I received an iMessage directly from Chloe. "There's a reception tonight. Can we go together?" I stared at my phone, feeling a sense of unreality. Usually, that was a message I would get from Ms. Davis. "Let's just go separately. While the divorce is being processed, I won't be staying at the house. I've moved out." She didn't reply. That, at least, felt normal. But an hour later, when I went downstairs to my car, I saw Chloe waiting for me. I had no idea how long she'd been waiting. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were bloodshot. I had never seen her look so worn out. "What are you?" A light flickered in her eyes as she rushed over and grabbed my hand, but then she froze. "Your ring, where is it?" I took it off. "Why aren't you wearing it?" she asked, her voice edged with panic. She sounded desperate. "We're in the middle of a divorce." I didn't think it was necessary. "Ethan," she yelled, her voice sharp. "I haven't agreed to a divorce." I was confused. "You didn't agree? But you didn't say no last night. You took the papers. You didn't object. You took the papers with you." She stared at me for a long moment, and and then her eyes filled with tears. Does not saying no automatically mean yes? Ethan, she cried, throwing her arms around me. I don't want a divorce. Chloe said she didn't want a divorce. I had anticipated countless obstacles to this divorce. My brother, the handover of the subsidiary, the division of assets. But I never imagined I would fail at the very first step. She didn't want to. I was getting frantic. Why not? Why wouldn't you want this? Isn't this better for both of us? How could you not? This is the best thing for us. She looked stunned, and just as she was about to speak, a car horn blared behind us. Her car was blocking the driveway. With the other driver getting impatient, we had no choice but to get into her car and head to the reception together. As soon as I got into the passenger seat, I noticed something was different. The normally pristine back seat was piled high with shopping bags. I bought candy, she said quietly. I put some in the glove compartment, too. From now on, don't hide it from me when you're not feeling well. Then she added, I've also put some all around the house. Chloe, I've hired 2 excellent chefs, one for Sichuan and one for Hunan cuisine. From now on, whatever you want to eat, spicy or sweet, I'll eat it with you. I'll learn to cook it, too. I'll start leaving work earlier so we can have dinner together. On weekends, we can go to the movies or to an amusement park. And if this is about Liam, I can explain everything. The company has been involved in educational philanthropy for years, but I don't personally choose the schools. That's done by a committee based on their research. I was just as surprised as you to find out they had chosen Liam's school, and I only learned about it recently. I know you probably saw those letters. They've always been kept at the main office. I only saw them a few days before you did, and only because my grandfather somehow heard about them, and I had my office gather them to show him. And the croissants and black coffee, she said, her voice sounding hurt. The barista at our cafe used to work at the one on campus. She lost her job, so I hired her. Liam used to work there part-time, so she remembered him and what he liked. Maybe my attitude that night gave you the wrong impression, but he's just someone from my past. He has nothing to do with us. He's insignificant. Chloe, Ethan, she interrupted. Please, just let me finish. I was up all night thinking. I know I haven't been a good wife, but I can change. If you know you've made a mistake, you should get a chance to fix it, right? I was still in a daze when we arrived at the reception. After making some polite small talk with a few people I knew, I stepped out onto the balcony for some air. And that's where I ran into a familiar face. Sarah Morgan, my childhood friend. I walked over to her. Well, if it isn't the world-famous husband of the year, she said with a teasing smile, raising an eyebrow. Long time no see. She always knew how to get under my skin. How have you been? I asked. I knew her situation with the Morgan family wasn't easy, being the illegitimate daughter. I'm fine, she said, pulling out a cigarette and offering one to me. Want one? I hesitated. No thanks. You quit. It would be a problem if I got photographed. The media thinks I'm a non-smoker. Ugh, you're no fun, she said, gesturing to the vast woods beyond the balcony. If there was anyone hiding out there with a camera, I'd eat that entire forest for you. You know that, right? I couldn't help but laugh. I was feeling on edge anyway. All right, fine. Give me one. That's more like it. You looked so miserable earlier. I thought you were depressed. I smiled. Are you still between jobs? She shrugged non-committally. Sarah, have you ever thought about coming to work at my new company? I asked. I knew she was a brilliant designer. Oh, what's this? I thought you were at the Hayes Corporation. Done playing the man behind the great woman. What happened? Aren't you with Chloe? You're not her support system anymore. She raised an eyebrow. I didn't have the energy to argue with her. I just took out my phone and sent her the company details. It's still a startup, so the pay isn't great, but I'd really like you to be a part of it. I'll think about it, she said with a yawn. But then her gaze shifted past me towards the doorway. She looked over my shoulder. I turned around. It was Chloe. My first instinct was to put out the cigarette. Chloe hated the smell of smoke. She walked over, her eyes flicking from Sarah to me, a frown on her face. You shouldn't smoke. It's bad for you, she said softly. Her voice was gentle. Sarah looked at me, then back at Chloe. You didn't know he smokes? Sarah asked suddenly. He's always been a smoker. Chloe froze. Honey, Sarah said, stepping forward and patting Chloe's arm with a condescending smile. You two have been married for 5 years, right? Don't tell me I know your husband better than you do. Sarah walked away, leaving me with a deathly pale Chloe. Look, I said, my head starting to ache. Don't get the wrong idea. I wasn't trying to hide it from you. It's just, things at the subsidiary have been stressful these past few years. You know how your uncles like to stir up trouble. It was tough at the beginning, and sometimes when I was stressed out, I'd have a smoke at home by myself. My explanation only seemed to make her face paler. I thought for a second and added, Sarah and I checked before. No one can see us out here, so you don't have to worry about any PR problems. Do you really think I'm worried about someone taking a picture of you smoking? She asked, her eyes red. Her eyes were welling up. I was stunned. Wasn't she? She looked down. Ethan, I've been a huge disappointment to you, haven't I? I paused, unsure of how to answer. Was I disappointed? Of course I was. The depth of my disappointment was matched only by the height of my hopes. But after a while, you get used to the disappointment. Now that I was determined to leave, what was the point of dredging it all up? I shook my head. No. Now that the subsidiary is running smoothly, I hardly smoke at all. So you can talk to Sarah about your stress, but you can't talk to me? I froze. If she really wanted to know. You want to listen? I asked. I asked her. She nodded. My only source of stress right now, I said, looking up at her seriously, is whether or not our divorce can proceed smoothly. If it could go a little faster, that would be even better. I wanted it to be quick. At that, Chloe started to tremble. I felt a bit helpless. She was the one who had insisted I tell her. After a moment, she stepped forward and hugged me, her voice muffled against my chest. Anything but that, she said. She whispered, Ethan, I can't divorce you. I just can't. After that night, Chloe seemed to change. I still went ahead with my plan to leave the subsidiary and take over the Sterling family's small media company, but gifts from her started arriving at my new office constantly. There were catered lunches, and of course, her. She started showing up unannounced. It was like our college days, but in reverse. Now she was the one pursuing me. The younger employees at my new company didn't know about the divorce, and they were always telling me how lucky I was to have such a wonderful wife. Only Sarah, who had since joined my company, would give me a knowing, cynical smile every time a delivery from Chloe arrived. She would just laugh and shake her head. A month later, the company was working on a major bid, and I had Sarah working overtime with me for days, hashing out every last detail. The moment we finally finished, I rolled my shoulders and looked over at Sarah, who looked just as relieved as I felt. She usually had such a carefree attitude. I'd never seen her work so hard on anything. I couldn't help but smile. Sarah shot me a quizzical look. I smiled. I'm just thinking I really struck gold when I hired you. Sarah scoffed. Please, I'm the one gracing you with my presence, remember? Right, my mistake, I said, unable to argue with her. I stood up. Come on, it's late. Let me buy you some late-night food to celebrate. I'd love that. But are you sure you don't have a visitor tonight? She asked, glancing towards the door. See? What did I tell you? I turned to look. Chloe was standing in the doorway. Sarah lazily gathered her things. I'm out of here, she said, waving. You still owe me that meal. I nodded. I know. After Sarah left, it was just me and Chloe in the office. She walked over silently, holding an insulated food container. Have you eaten? She asked quietly. Her voice was soft. We already ate, I replied. I told her. Silence fell between us. Chloe, I think. Before I could finish my sentence, she suddenly threw herself into my arms, holding me tight. Chloe, I asked, my body tensing up instinctively. What's wrong? She didn't say anything, just took a deep breath, her face buried in my chest. The clock on the wall ticked away the seconds. I'm jealous, she finally whispered. It took a long time for her to speak. Ethan, I'm jealous. I never thought I would see the day Chloe would be hugging me, telling me she was jealous. You asked me before why I wouldn't agree to the divorce. Do you know why? It's because I can't imagine you with someone else. I can't stand the thought of it. Just now, when I was standing in the doorway watching you smile at her, you both looked so happy, and I couldn't stop the jealousy from rising inside me. I know there's nothing going on between you and Sarah, but I was still so jealous I thought I was going to lose my mind. Ethan, she mumbled into my chest. I think I'm going crazy. I raised my arms and held her. Chloe, I said softly. You asked me why I wanted a divorce, remember? Her body went still in my arms. For 5 years, I played the part of the perfect husband. My entire world revolved around my wife. But when I finally looked back, I realized I had completely lost myself in the process. Chloe, I want a divorce because I want to be Ethan Sterling again. I want to live for myself. I gently pushed her away. It's been 5 years. Let's just end this amicably, okay? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I paused for a moment, then tried to step around her, but she grabbed my hand, stopping me. Husband, she whispered. I froze. Just one more chance. Please, give me one more chance. Her palm was burning against my skin. Fine, I said softly. If you step down as CEO of the Hayes Corporation by the end of the year, we won't get a divorce. She stared at me, shocked. What? That's my only condition. She was silent for a long moment. Ethan, that's too much to ask. I shook my head and tried to pull my hand away, but she held on tight. That's the only condition. Nothing else. After a moment, she finally let go of my hand. I understand, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Step down? My brother asked. stunned, before bursting into laughter. No way. If Chloe Hayes steps down as CEO, I'll personally twist my own head off and let you use it as a bowling ball. I know. The situation with the Hayes family was complicated. Old Mr. Hayes had two sons, Chloe's father and her uncle. Originally, Mr. Hayes had intended to leave the company to his eldest son's family. But 6 years ago, Chloe's cousin got into serious trouble and ended up in prison, so Chloe was forced to take over. But the rest of the family never accepted a woman in charge. They were constantly causing problems for her at the company, each of them eyeing her position. I had spent a good part of the last 5 years helping her deal with their schemes. Chloe hadn't grown up in the main Hayes estate and wasn't particularly close to her grandfather, and the old man, in his advanced age, sometimes had trouble telling friend from foe. I knew better than anyone how hard she had fought for the last 5 years to secure her position, so I knew she would never step down. And I was right. After our conversation, Chloe stopped contacting me altogether. 3 months flew by. I threw myself into my work, and the new company was finally starting to show signs of success. Sarah and the other employees were highly motivated, and I could see that Sarah herself had changed a lot during that time. On December 31st, we held a small New Year's Eve party for the company. We all went out for dinner and karaoke, and my brother even showed up. "You're really killing it, Ethan." Everyone was right. "You're a natural at this." Then, of course, he started pushing his luck. "Don't you think it's time you came back to help with the main Sterling Group business? Dad's working me to the bone over here." Everyone was in high spirits, and when I finally agreed to help him out more, Henry got so excited he started singing and dancing, completely shedding his usual serious demeanor. At 11, as we were all leaving the karaoke bar, it started to snow. A few of the more rowdy employees immediately started a snowball fight. Across the street, a news program was playing on the giant screen of a department store. Henry was still chattering away behind me when a snowflake landed in my hair. I brushed it away, and as I looked up, I saw Chloe's face on the screen. She looked poised and elegant as she answered a reporter's questions. "Ms. Hayes," the reporter asked, "was there a particular reason for your sudden decision to step down as CEO of the Hayes Corporation?" Chloe smiled serenely. "No special reason. I just want to take some time off, to spend more time with my husband." I stared at the screen, stunned. I turned to look at my brother, who was staring with his mouth agape. Our eyes met, and he slowly raised a hand to his neck. Just then, my phone rang. "Hello, where are you?" "Downtown, by the clock tower. I'll be there in half an hour." "Chloe, Ethan, you have to keep your promise," she said, her voice light and happy. She sounded relieved. "Wait for me." At 1:45, I saw Chloe under the clock tower. She walked towards me through the falling snow, flakes dusting her shoulders and hair, looking like something out of a dream. "You didn't have to do that," I said as we stood facing each other. "You've stepped down. What if you can never get that position back?" She just shook her head and smiled, looking completely at ease. "If I can't go back, I can't go back." I shook my head. 5 years of your life's work. How can you just throw it all away? It's so reckless," I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. I couldn't believe it. Her eyes crinkled into a smile. "So, you are worried about me, aren't you?" She took a step closer. "That means there's still hope for me, right?" "Chloe." She held out a stack of papers to me. It was the divorce agreement. I looked at her, confused. Over the past 3 months, while I was processing my resignation, I did a lot of thinking. "Ethan," I stepped down, "but I don't want to use that to force you to stay in this marriage," she said, pausing for a moment. "I've already signed the divorce papers." "Then why did you step down?" I asked, more confused than ever. A good businesswoman never makes a losing deal. I'm confident that even without the Hayes Corporation, I can build a new one from scratch. Starting over will be a welcome challenge. She smiled. "Besides, I wanted to trade my resignation for something else, if that's okay." "For something else?" I asked, not understanding. I was lost. She rose onto her toes and gently brushed the snow from my hair. "For a chance for us to start over." She looked up at me, and I looked down at her. Our eyes met, and hers were filled with a tender love I had never seen before. For a chance for Chloe Hayes to pursue Ethan Sterling all over again. At 11:59, I signed my name on the papers. From that moment on, I was no longer the perfect husband everyone talked about. I was just Ethan. I was just myself. The clock tower chimed, ringing in the new year. Chloe and I looked up together at the falling snow. "It's the new year," I said. I sighed. "Yes, it is." "So then," she said, her eyes sparkling as she held out her hand to me. "Happy New Year, Ethan Sterling. My name is Chloe Hayes." I looked at her and smiled. "Happy New Year, Chloe Hayes." I took her hand in mine. "I'm Ethan Sterling."